In many countries, $1 disappears almost instantly. A cup of coffee, a train ticket, maybe even just a bottle of water. But in New Zealand, the story of $1 isn't really about what it buys. It's about what it reveals. Because in a country filled with snow-covered mountains, quiet coastal towns, sheep farms stretching beyond the horizon, and cities that feel almost too calm for the modern world, even the smallest coin tells you something about how people live here. And unlike much of Asia, where $1 can still buy a full meal, New Zealand belongs to the opposite category entirely. A place where prices can feel shocking. Yet daily life still moves with a strange sense of balance. The first thing many people notice in New Zealand isn't the cities. It's the silence. No endless traffic horns. No oceans of motorbikes. No packed street markets shouting over each other. Instead, there's the sound of wind moving through hills. Seagulls near the harbor. Coffee machines steaming inside small cafes before sunrise. Even in Auckland, the country's largest city, life feels slower than most major urban centers around the world. The streets are clean. Storefronts are simple. And nature never seems very far away. Right now, $1 is worth roughly 1.7 New Zealand dollars. That may sound decent at first, until you actually try spending it. In many parts of New Zealand, $1 won't even buy a regular cup of coffee. But it can still buy small pieces of everyday life. At some bakeries, a single dollar is enough for a soft bread roll fresh out of the oven. The kind workers grab quickly before early morning shifts. In smaller towns, you might still find old-school candy shops where $1 buys a paper bag filled with colorful gummies and sour lollies. A tiny tradition that somehow survived the modern economy. And then there's the famous meat pie. Golden crust. Hot steam escaping from the center. Filled with minced beef, cheese, butter chicken, or steak and mushroom. A full pie usually costs several dollars now. But $1 can still get part of that experience. Especially in local dairies, the small neighborhood convenience stores that exist almost everywhere across New Zealand. These dairies are more than stores. They're community checkpoints. Kids stop there after school. Construction workers grab energy drinks there at sunrise. Locals know the owners by name. And despite inflation slowly changing the country, the dairy still feels deeply connected to everyday New Zealand life. But the most iconic thing about New Zealand isn't found in food at all. It's found in motion. Because few things are more uniquely New Zealand than the sight of a tiny rural road cutting through endless green hills. With sheep scattered across the landscape like moving clouds. There are actually more sheep than people in New Zealand. And while that fact has become almost a stereotype now, it still shapes the country in ways visitors immediately feel. Agriculture here isn't hidden away from society. It is society in many regions. Milk tankers move before sunrise. Farm supply trucks pass through tiny towns. And entire local economies still revolve around livestock, dairy, and exports. Even a $1 coin reflects this identity. New Zealand's currency often features native birds, Maori cultural symbolism, and images tied closely to the land itself. In some ways, the country feels modern and rural at the exact same time. And maybe that's what makes it different. Daily life here runs on small systems that outsiders rarely notice. Coffee culture is enormous. But unlike the fast-paced grab-and-go style of many countries, cafes in New Zealand feel slower and more personal. People sit, talk, stay longer. Public transportation exists, but outside major cities, cars dominate daily life. Road trips are almost part of the national identity. And because the population is relatively small and geographically isolated, imported goods often cost far more than people expect. That's why $1 here feels different than $1 in Southeast Asia or South America. It's not built around abundance. It's built around stability. Even small family businesses survive through loyal local communities rather than massive crowds. And in many neighborhoods, honesty boxes still exist. Small roadside stands where farmers leave fruit, eggs, or vegetables with nobody watching, except a handwritten sign asking people to pay fairly. That level of trust still surprises many visitors. Of course, none of this means life in New Zealand is cheap or easy. Housing prices, especially in cities like Auckland and Wellington, have risen dramatically over the years. Groceries are expensive. Rent can be overwhelming for younger residents. and many locals feel the pressure of a high cost of living despite relatively strong wages. So while $1 may seem small to tourists, its value looks very different through the eyes of someone paying local bills every month. But maybe that's the point. The story of $1 in New Zealand isn't really about buying power. It's about perspective. Because in the end, the most memorable thing here might not be what $1 can buy, but the feeling of standing beside a quiet road somewhere between mountains and farmland, watching clouds move across green hills so wide they almost don't look real. New Zealand feels like a country constantly balancing two worlds: modern life and untouched nature. And maybe that balance is worth more than the dollar itself. So if you had exactly $1 in New Zealand, would you spend it on a bakery snack, candy from a dairy, or save it as a coin-shaped souvenir from the edge of the world? And which country should be next?